All right, in this lesson 2.02b, what we are doing is we are plotting irrational numbers on the number line. So there are many ways you can do this, but I'm going to use the calculator. And basically what we're going to do, or what you should do, like I'm going to show you now, I'm going to put the irrational number. Remember, an irrational number is a number that cannot be written as a fraction. So I'm going to put that number in the square root, but I'm going to change the number. I'm going to do a different number. So I'm going to say square root of 53. Now you can see that my answer is 7.2 in a long string of decimal digits. What I do is I first look at the first two digits, the 7.2. Let me make this bigger here. I'm going to look for 7.2 on the number line. There is 7.2. But I cannot put the decimal point there because 7.2 is not the same thing as 7.28, blah, blah, blah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start estimating. So when I find 7.2 on the number line, I'm going to look what is next. And now I'm going to pick three digits, the first three digits. So 7.28. And you can see that after 7.2, I see 7.25 and 7.3. So 7.28 has to be between 7.25 and 7.3. So now we're going to have to do like an estimate where we'll be. Now, the cool thing about this line is show me the coordinates, especially look at the first number, okay, in the parentheses, 7.2. See, now it says 7.21, 7.23, 24, 25, 26, 27. That was 27 and 28. That more or less where I would put the decimal point for the square root of 3. And that's how you do this problem number 1. Let's go to the next one. Here's problem number 2. They ask you to plot pi. Remember, pi is an irrational number because you cannot write it as a fraction. Now, I'm not going to do pi. I'm going to do, let's say I do 2 pi. So I'm going to write that in my calculator, 2 pi. See, the pi symbol was there. Look, see that long string of decimal? That's a clue or cue that this is an irrational number, okay? Long string of decimal, it should be going on forever. And there's no repeating patterns with the digits. So what I'm going to do, I want to put this number here in the number line. Okay, let me make this bigger. And I picked the first two digits, 6.2. Here's 6, 6.05, 6.1. See, you can keep looking. Here's 6.2. Now, I cannot put the decimal point there because it's 2 pi is not exactly 6.2. So I need to put it somewhere after. Okay, so what I do is now I pick the first three digits, so 6.28, and now I'm gonna look for that number. So here's 6.2, this will be 6.25, this is 6.3, 6.28 has to be between 6.25 and 6.3. Now I'm gonna click on the dot, and remember, put the dot on the number line. And you can see as soon as you put it on the number line, the first number in the parentheses, it tells you where you have the dot. 6.2 right now. The next one, 6.21, 6.23. See, but I know 6.28 is after the 6.25. So 6.26, 6.20. Oh, there you go. I got 6.28. Again, I'm going to have to do an estimate. And 6.28 is the closest one. So I'm going to put the dot there. And that's it. That's how you do the problem. Let's go to the next one. All right, here's question 3. Again, we're going to do the same thing. They gave you an irrational number, and you need to put a plot, means you need to put a dot, a point on the number line where that irrational number is going to be. Like I mentioned, problem 1, there are many ways of doing this. I'm going to use the calculator. Now, I'm not going to do the same problem you see here. I'm going to do a similar one. There it is. Okay, very similar. And what I do is I look at my answer and I pick the first two digits, 2.5. That means that my dot should be on or after 2.5. Here's 2.5. Okay, but I cannot put it there because the number I put here, this irrational number, is not exactly 2.5. So it has to be after. Okay, so what I do now is I pick the first three digits. 2.53. So I know here's 2.5. I'm going to click on the dot. I'm going to put the, I'm going to place the, I'm not going to click. I'm going to place the dot on 2.5. If you look at the parentheses, the first number says 2.5. And then you start moving to the right, you're going to see it start changing. So that's 2.51, 2.52. See, I want to get to 2.53, which is right there. Why I put it there? Because my first, in fact, I should be careful. I should not put in 2.53. I should put it on 2.54 because the number that is after the 3 is a 9. And I'm estimating, when you estimate, you're rounding. Okay, so the 3 has to go up. So 2.54, let me fix that. Let me click on the dot. So here's 2.5, 1, 51, 52, 53, 54. That's what I will put the dot, because I rounded the 2.53. Look who's right after the 3, a 9. So the 3 goes 1 up. Okay, and that's how you do problem number 3. Let's go to the next one. Here's question 4, and again, we are plotting. Plot, the word plot means put a point on the number line. That's what we're doing here. And we're putting points on for irrational numbers. Like, for example, 5 square root of 27. Now, I'm not going to do the same one. I'm going to leave that for you. Here's the one that I'm going to try. 4 square root of 26 is very similar. And what I do is, after I put in the calculator, I pick. Now, I'm going to pick now the first 3 digits, 20.3. And I know my answer, I'm going to look for 20.3. And I know here's 20, 20.3, here's 20.1, 20.2, here's 20.3 right there. Now, I'm not going to put a point there because my answer is not exactly 20.3. It's a little bit more. Okay, that's why I'm going to pick the next, the first 4 digits, 20.39. However, if you look at the 9, there is a 6. So that means that the 39 is going to, or the 9, well, I'm going to say 39. The 39 is going to go 1 up. So it's going to become 20.40. So that's what I'm going to look for. Here's 20.35. My answer is bigger than 20.35 because it was 20.39. But when I round, it will be rounded to 20.4. And that's what I put my dot there. Okay, let's go to the last question. All right, here's the last question of this assignment. We're plotting irrational numbers, but we need to approximate. We're going to have to do some rounding. I suggest you use the calculator. Square root of 42 minus 11. I'm not going to put the same number. I'm going to put a similar one. Here it is. Now make sure when you type this in the calculator, the minus sign is outside the square root symbol. Okay. Now also look at my answer. It's going to be a negative number. All right. Careful when you're working with negative numbers. Okay. So first, look at my number line. My number line is not on the negative number side. So I'm going to have to drag this. See, I'm taking my mouse and I'm pressing the left button of my mouse. And then I move my mouse to the right and I go back to the front and keep doing the same thing. You need to have negative numbers. Right now, there's no negative numbers here. See? So keep dragging until you start seeing negative numbers. We're getting closer to 0 now. Look at the numbers, 1 point something. We're getting closer to 0. Here's the 0 point something. You're getting closer. Here are, where's 0? I think I saw, there is 0, see? Now, on the left side of 0, we have the negative numbers. Now, careful, when you are on the negative side, so you're counting to the left. Okay? When you're on the positive side, you're counting to the right. What do I mean? When you start putting this number here, you're going to be counting to the left. Okay? Moving to the left. So let's find the first 2 digits of negative 3.5. So right now I'm in the negative 1 point something. Let me keep moving until I see negative 3. Here is negative 3. And you see we are, let me make this bigger so you can see this better. Oh, no, I don't want to do that. Here's negative 3. Let me see if I can make there's negative 3. Okay, we are counting to the left. When we were on the negative side, we counting to the left. Careful when you do that, when you put the point on the line. So I'm looking for negative 3.5. So negative 3.5, there it is. That means that my number is going to be to the left of negative 3.5 because mine says negative 3.5 and a bunch of digits. Okay, so I'm counting to the left. Now, how I'm going to find the more or less, not the exact place, more or less, the approximate place. I'm going to pick the first three digits here, negative 3.59. But look after the 9, I see a 6. That means that my 59 is going to go up 1. So all of this becomes negative 3.60. So here is negative 3.5. Let's look for negative 3. Here is negative 3.60. And that's how you do that problem. Okay, I hope this helps.